Money Making Monday. What's going on? It's your boy Hawk here with a little hoops talking squawk about the reigning NBA MVP, Joel Embiid, and his recent comments. I forgot what show that was, but I've been seeing the links all over Facebook and thoughts from different folks on Embiid's comments where he stated he wants to win the championship, whether it's here in Philadelphia or somewhere else. And you know what I mean? It's safe to say that that really triggered a lot of the Sixers Nation 76. I mean, rightfully so. But here's my thoughts on the whole situation. Now, a lot of people was criticizing Embiid, and rightfully so. I mean, the guy epically choked in the Sixers second round series against the Boston Celtics. Here you're up 3-2 with Game 6 at home. And how all of a sudden you don't get the ball the last 4 minutes of the game. But when you're playing against bum-ass teams like the Charlotte Hornets, you don't hesitate to put up big numbers on them, demanding the ball every trip down the floor. Where was that same energy in Game 6 and 7 against the Celtics? And really, there's not even no need to talk about Game 7, because Game 7 should have never, ever happened. There should have never been a Game 7 in that series. Game 6 should have been a clincher. The Sixers should have finally beat Boston and finally advanced past the second round to the Eastern Conference Finals. But no, Embiid choked. And that led to a civil war in Sixers Nation 76 between the fans that were just beyond fed up with Embiid and his fanboys that can see no wrong, but were quick to blame Ben Simmons. Yeah, and Ben definitely deserved the criticism, but he wasn't alone in that. Embiid is now 0-3 in Game 7s as a Sixer. In all 3 series where the Sixers lost in Game 7, 2019 against Toronto. That's another series. There should have never been a Game 7, because after the Sixers won Game 2 in Toronto, all they had to do was win all their home games to close out the series at 6. But that Game 4 with Philly up 2-1, Embiid choked again. Then blamed having a stomach virus or some shit like that. There's no excuse. Then 2021, even with Ben's shitty performance, there's no way the Sixers should have lost that series. Sixers should have won that series in 5 games at the max. Even after that hiccup in Game 1. They won Games 2 and 3, shit the bed again in Game 4, missing 3 easy shots under the basket with a chance to go up 3-1. Had that happened, I'm quite confident they would have won Game 5 to close that series out 4-1. Then again, this year against Boston. You know what I mean? Another 7-game loss and yet another series that should have never saw a Game 7. So that 0-3 record in Game 7s for Embiid and the Sixers during his tenure, all three series should have never saw a Game 7. They should have beat Toronto 4-2 in 2019. They should have beat Atlanta. They should have spanked Atlanta 4-1 in 2021. And they should have beat Boston 4-2 in the 2023 Eastern Conference semifinals. Like Embiid's known as a playoff choker. You know what I mean? Who cares that he averaged 33 points during the season and can get 50 to damn near 60 points against inferior teams? Where's that smoke in the playoffs? You know what I mean? That's how you stack up amongst the greats. By delivering when it really counts. You know what I mean? Putting up those regular season numbers, winning scoring titles and the MVP is cool. But if you want to be a champion, you got to deliver in the playoffs. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And Embiid has yet to do that. And Cat to be like, well, what about against Brooklyn he was putting up? Yeah, against inferior teams. Like, that's not impressive. You know what I mean? Do that against the Celtics in the second round where you have a chance to advance to the conference finals for the first time in 22 damn years. Right? He couldn't do it. And I know he's feeling a backlash that he's received over the past 3 months, because it's been 3 months now. No, sorry, my bad. It's been 2 months now since the Sixers season has ended. 2 months. And Embiid's got a lot of criticism, even from former fanboys who blindly defended him before. It's like Captain tired of making excuses and deflecting and placing the blame on everybody else. Yeah, Ben's bitch ass shit the bed in 2021. Yeah, James Harden, who's a known choke artist, also choked against Boston this year. Yeah, Tobias Harris overpaid ass shrunk again in key moments. We know all that already. But Embiid's your best player and the league MVP. This is times where he needs to put the team on his back and deliver. You know? And I was one of the ones saying to trade his ass after another playoff failure. I was one of the ones saying it. You know what I mean? It got into so many different debates with fanboys who just pretend that Game 6 and Game 7, as much as I hate to mention that Game 7 because it never should have happened, they act like those situations never happened. They act like Embiid was out there scoring 40 and 50 points and the rest of the team didn't do shit. That's how they act. You know what I mean? So for like throughout the remainder of the playoffs after the Sixers were eliminated, instead of talking about the conference finals and the NBA finals, most of the conversation in Sixers Nation 76 was about Embiid choking again, and me amongst a few others telling cats that it's time to just trade dude. Because I'm going to say this too. From the moment we drafted Embiid for the third pick, first of all, if it wasn't for his injury in college, he would have went number one to Cleveland. You know, he would have went number one. He wouldn't have dropped to us at number 3. But, you know what I mean, he did. But then he sat out his first 2 years. And I was saying back then, I never thought he was going to be a bust. But I always knew that he was going to have health problems. And he was going to be injury prone. Like I've always said that. Because I watched his workouts and seen videos. I knew he wasn't going to be a bust. I knew once he stepped on the court, he was going to be a problem. But I always knew those health issues would be a motherfucker. You know what I mean? And here we are. He hasn't played in any more than 69 games in his 7 seasons. Really, in his first actual NBA season play, he only appeared in, 28 games? But those games he did play in on a minutes restriction, at that, he definitely produced. And you knew once they get a team around them, it's going to be a wrap. On his first actual full season of playing, they've been a playoff team every year. You know, Embiid has his accolades. MVP. You know what I mean? You could make the argument that he should have won it last year as well. 2-time scoring champion. 5-time NBA All-Star. No, 6-time NBA All-Star. 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. A 6-time NBA All-Star. Let's see, the only Sixers with more All-Star appearances, you have Doc with 11. AI 8 as a Sixer. You know what I mean? Hal Greer, a 10-time All-Star. So Embiid's tied with Charles Barkley for 6 All-Star appearances. You know what I mean? So at this point, Embiid is already one of the best players to ever play for the franchise. You know, you can make the argument that he's top 5. Like I said, my 76er GOAT tier is Dr. J, Will Chamberlain, and Iverson. Then the next tier, which is the MVP tier, Moses Malone, Charles Barkley, Joel Embiid, or you could say Moses, Embiid, and Barkley. Seeing how Embiid has a MVP as a Sixer. Barkley's lone MVP came as a member of the Suns. But Embiid has already racked up a pretty impressive career as a Sixer. It's just that his playoff resume sucks. Yeah, they've been to the second round of 5 out of the 6 seasons that they made the playoffs. You know, and been to 3 Game 7s, but that's not good enough. Especially for a franchise that hasn't won a championship in 40 fucking years. You know, we should have been to at least 3 conference finals with Embiid. And at least a championship. 2019 is the championship that got away when they choked to Toronto. That's the one that got away. You could make an argument that they would have won the East in 21-23, well, this year as well, had they not choked yet again in the second round. But as much as Embiid gets the blame for his playoff failures, you got to look at the organization as a whole. Now, those that listen to me and tune into my Hoops Talking Squawk, they know that how I feel about the organization. You know what I mean? It's a clown show. It's a major clown show. You know, it's like all they care about is selling tickets instead of actually building a winner here in Philly. You know, like the whole process was a joke. You know what I mean? Really, Embiid's the only good piece that came out of the process, all those picks and shit they've had. You know what I mean? Trading Mikal Bridges, a hometown kid who won 2 national championships at Villanova. Mine worked for the organization. He would have been a great piece for us these last 5 years. You trade him for a ninja that is allergic to peanuts. And I'm not making fun of his allergy or whatever, but that's just how disgusted I am by the clowns running this organization throughout the process that made a stupid trade like that. Letting Jimmy Butler walk. And all those blind homer deflected clowns. Oh, Jimmy was going to go to Miami anyway. Say what you want. Jimmy wanted to play with Embiid. But no, they chose to keep Ben Simmons and Brett Brown, who Jimmy clearly didn't want to play for or play with. But you know what I mean? That's the past. Ain't no need to keep hashing on it. But that just goes to show that this organization is run by clowns. You know, so it's like, as much as I criticize Embiid for his playoff failures, you know what I mean, it's hard to deny why he feels the way he does. The fan base is so flip-floppy. You know what I mean? The same ones crying about trading him are now bitching that he's possibly hinting at playing somewhere else. But you have to also attribute that to this shit show of an organization over the past 40 years. 40 years without a championship, 22 years without a conference finals appearance. Since 83, that last championship, the team has been past the second round twice. 1985 and 2001. Twice in 40 fucking years. You know what I mean? That's a disgrace. So, you know what I mean? The fault is on both sides. Embiid for always crying, bitching, and trolling, yet won't deliver in the postseason. And the organization for the bullshit they do. And it all starts at the top from ownership. Ownership down to management. Like the whole front office is just a joke. So, I've been calling for Embiid to be traded. You know what I mean? It's better to trade him now while his value's high than to keep going on and on with him. You know what I mean? You wind up... I mean, you're not going to get back equal value in a player, but you could get some pieces. You could definitely get some pieces. And it's better to just part ways now Then they go into another season. I mean, honestly, as much as I say trade him now, I want to see him in Nick Nurse's system. I wouldn't mind them running it back with this same team to see how they do under a different coach. Then next season, start all over. Harden and Harris come off the books. If Embiid shits the bed again in the playoffs, then trade his ass. You know? But I would like to see how next season plays out. But if Embiid keeps dropping these little hints, the organization is going to have to do something. Otherwise, you're going to have a disgruntled franchise player on your hand. And we've had enough of that as Philadelphia fans over the years. So let me see. Any other thoughts before I wrap up this video? Like I said, whether Embiid is ever traded or not, he's already one of the all-time greatest Sixers. You know, I can criticize him and still keep it real, unlike a lot of emotional fans. Because I've seen some idiot put up a post or something ranking the top 10 Sixers that didn't have Embiid in there. I'm like, that's just straight asinine. The guy does have an MVP, a couple of scoring titles. You know what I mean? What, 450-win teams that have reached the second round? Yeah, we should have won a lot more with Embiid, but do we even have the success we've had over the past 6 seasons without Embiid? You know, so he's definitely a Sixer legend, especially since before him, our last MVP was Allen Iverson, which was 20-some years ago. Like, it's already, 17 years since we had a prime AI on our roster. So, Embiid is definitely a Sixer great. I mean, me personally, I like to see him running back with him under a new coach, but if they trade him, I'm cool with that too. Just, we can't afford no more playoff failures from Embiid. You got your MVP, you got your scoring titles, you have your all-star selections. Now deliver us a championship. At least get this team out of the Eastern Conference and to the NBA Finals. Do that, or win a championship, and you might even move up. You know what I mean? Embiid could be in the 76er GOAT tier if you want to chip a couple championships when it's all said and done. But anyway, this is a little Hoops Talking Squawk with your boy Hawk. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content. Hawk out.